Arias of Tartaria, Hadrian Vega, the Golden Age of Tartaria. In the heart of Central Asia, the Empire of Tartaria stood as a monumental achievement of human ingenuity, intellectual pursuit, and cultural unity. Spanning vast expanses from the steppes of Mongolia to the rugged mountain ranges of the Caucasus, and even to the shores of the distant oceans, Tartaria was a land of diverse landscapes and peoples. Its borders were drawn not just with physical geography, but with the shared ideals of prosperity, peace, and progress. This immense empire was a crossroads for trade, knowledge, and cultural exchange, where the confluence of different civilizations brought about a golden age of learning and artistic expression. Tartaria's cities were nothing short of architectural marvels, showcasing the empire's unparalleled mastery in both design and engineering. Towering spires, many of them decorated with intricate carvings, stood against the backdrop of an ever-expanding skyline. The walls of these grand cities shimmered with mosaics of vibrant colors, depicting everything from celestial events to mythical tales that spanned millennia. The public spaces were adorned with expansive gardens filled with rare flora from all corners of the empire, creating an atmosphere of tranquility and unity. These cities, such as the renowned capital of Agartha, were both places of governance and cultural hubs, where philosophers, poets, and scientists gathered to discuss the great mysteries of the universe. The concept of beauty was interwoven with function, and every edifice told a story of the empire's greatness and the harmony between its people. The people of Tartaria, a tapestry of countless ethnicities and cultures, shared a collective identity rooted in mutual respect and progress. The empire embraced diversity, fostering an environment where different languages, philosophies, and customs could flourish side by side. Tartarian society was built on the values of tolerance and intellectual exchange, which allowed for the flourishing of a broad spectrum of ideas. This dynamic ecosystem of cultures led to a fertile ground for the sciences, the arts, and philosophy to blossom. It was not uncommon to see scholars of various disciplines, whether mathematics, astronomy, medicine, or theology, debating and learning from one another in the public squares and libraries of the empire. At the core of Tartaria's success was the Order of the Golden Flame, an ancient secretive society of scholars, mystics, and philosophers. This enigmatic group, founded centuries before the empire's rise, was entrusted with the preservation of forbidden knowledge, secrets passed down through generations. The order's leaders were believed to possess deep insights into the workings of the universe, guided by celestial forces that connected their teachings to the cosmos itself. This hidden knowledge was not only a source of spiritual enlightenment, but also the key to advanced technologies, many of which were far ahead of their time. They understood the interconnection of the natural and supernatural, and their wisdom guided the rulers of Tartaria, who were seen not as mere kings or emperors, but as guardians of the world's balance and the keepers of ancient cosmic truths. The empire's technological advancements were legendary. From advanced astronomy that allowed them to map the stars with astonishing accuracy to the development of complex machinery that powered their cities, Tartarians were pioneers in fields that would only be rediscovered centuries later by the rest of the world. They perfected methods of medicine that not only cured disease, but enhanced the quality of life, with healers and sages blending both spiritual and material remedies. Engineers in Tartaria created structures that defied gravity and incorporated energy sources that were seen as mystical by outsiders, but were simply the result of an advanced understanding of natural laws. Tartarian explorers, driven by a thirst for knowledge, ventured far beyond their borders. They sailed across uncharted seas and trekked through dense jungles and vast deserts, reaching distant lands that had never been touched by other civilizations. These explorers were not just adventurers, they were emissaries of knowledge, bringing with them advancements in medicine, astronomy, and engineering. They taught other civilizations the art of navigation and the secrets of the stars, helping to shape the development of cultures from the east to the west. In return, They brought back exotic goods, such as rare spices, fine fabrics, and strange artifacts, along with forgotten knowledge that enriched the empire further. Among these great travelers was Kael, a daring explorer and cartographer who charted distant lands for the empire. His latest expedition had taken him to the edges of the known world, where he encountered strange landscapes and uncovered secrets long lost to time. Yet, upon his return, he brought back something far more personal, a delicate flower from a distant valley, a simple yet powerful token of love meant for Aeliana Arias. Aeliana, a brilliant scholar and devoted member of the Order of the Golden Flame, spent her days deciphering ancient texts and safeguarding the Empire's most guarded secrets. Her mind was occupied with the mysteries of the cosmos, but her heart belonged to Kael. Their love was a quiet rebellion against the rigid structures of their world. Aeliana's sacred duties forbade her from forming attachments, while Kael's wanderlust often carried him far from home. Yet, despite the odds, their bond was steadfast, a love as enduring as the stars they both admired. Their story was but a single thread in the grand tapestry of Tartaria, a civilization where knowledge and passion intertwined, and where the pursuit of truth was the Empire's greatest ambition. The exchanges between Tartaria and the rest of the world were not limited to material goods. They were also intellectual in nature. The knowledge of the Tartarians spread through the lands they touched, shaping the scientific and philosophical advancements of the civilizations they encountered. Yet, even as they shared their wisdom with the world, the true extent of their knowledge remained shrouded in mystery. The Empire of Tartaria, with its advanced technology and profound understanding of the universe, remained an enigma, its full history and achievements concealed from the public eye by the Order of the Golden Flame. What they shared with the world was enough to change the course of history, but the most powerful secrets remained hidden, waiting for the day when they would again be revealed. Seeds of Destruction. Despite its splendor and unmatched power, the vast empire of Tartaria was not immune to the inevitable decline that comes with complacency and hubris. Beneath its polished surface, the once united empire began to show cracks, and the seeds of its own destruction were sown long before its fall. Ancient prophecies, passed down through generations, warned of the empire's collapse, a fate sealed by its leaders' arrogance and their gradual detachment from the very people they were meant to serve. Yet, those in power, consumed by their own wealth and influence, chose to ignore these dire omens. Instead of embracing the wisdom of their ancestors, they turned a blind eye to the crumbling foundations of their civilization. As Tartaria's golden age began to wane, whispers of doom spread through the empire. Aeliana, poring over ancient prophecies, discovered a chilling prediction. The empire would fall, not by the sword, but by its own hubris. She confided in Kael, who dismissed it as mere superstition. "The empire is eternal," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "And so are we." But the signs were undeniable. The ruling class of Tartaria, once known for their dedication to progress, prosperity, and unity, grew increasingly corrupt as they reveled in luxury and excess. The leaders who had once been paragons of virtue and wisdom now became disconnected from the struggles of the common people. The merchants and aristocrats expanded their fortunes while the peasants and workers toiled in silence. Inequality and social unrest began to simmer beneath the surface, as the once flourishing cities became divided by the vast gulf between the elite and the rest of society. The common folk, once proud of their empire's grand achievements, now found themselves overlooked, their voices drowned out by the growing distractions of the aristocracy. The Order of the Golden Flame, once revered as a beacon of wisdom and enlightenment, became a tool for the powerful to hoard knowledge. Aeliana's mentor, Grandmaster Orin, warned her of dangerous experiments being conducted in secret, experiments that tampered with forces beyond human understanding. "The balance of the cosmos is at risk," he said gravely, And love, my dear, may be the only thing that can save us. This disconnection from the people was not the only factor that hindered Tartaria's progress. Internal power struggles within the ruling class further weakened the once unified leadership. Factions emerged, each vying for control of the empire, and with every shift in power, the empire's stability eroded. These political infighting and conspiracies consumed the attention of the ruling elite, distracting them from the true purpose of leadership, the well-being of the empire. As these leaders bickered among themselves, the crucial advancements in science and technology stagnated. The thriving intellectual exchange that had once defined the empire became a thing of the past, replaced by bureaucracy and distrust. What had once been a beacon of knowledge and innovation now struggled to keep up with the demands of an ever-changing world. In their pride, the scientists, mystics, and alchemists of Tartaria pushed the boundaries of their knowledge beyond what was safe. What began as noble quests for enlightenment, breakthroughs in energy manipulation, and unlocking the mysteries of the universe soon spiraled into reckless experimentation. Driven by a thirst for greater power, they tampered with unknown forces, ancient energies, and forgotten technologies that should have remained untouched. These experiments, once heralded as the key to elevating the empire to new heights, soon had disastrous consequences. The very forces they sought to harness began to destabilize the delicate balance of nature, causing unpredictable and catastrophic disruptions. Entire regions experienced unnatural storms, earthquakes, and strange phenomena that left the populace terrified and the land scarred. At the same time, envy and fear stirred within the rival kingdoms surrounding Tartaria. These kingdoms, once dwarfed by the empire's dominance, began to realize that Tartaria's strength lay not just in its armies, but in its hidden knowledge, the very knowledge that made it an empire of wonders. Spies, both covert and overt, infiltrated the empire in an effort to steal its scientific and mystical secrets. Using espionage and subterfuge, these foreign agents sought to unravel the mysteries of Tartarian technology, stealing ancient manuscripts, blueprints for advanced machines, and even knowledge of the esoteric forces that powered the empire's greatest achievements. This stolen knowledge, once in the hands of rival kingdoms, shifted the balance of power and sowed discord across Tartaria's borders. Tensions between neighboring civilizations, fueled by the stolen secrets, created alliances and coalitions that threatened the very existence of the empire. As if this external threat wasn't enough, Tartaria's own citizens began to turn against it. Disillusioned by the growing corruption of the ruling class, many of the empire's brightest minds and most loyal followers began to lose faith in their leaders. Former scholars and mystics, once staunch defenders of the empire, defected, taking their vast knowledge with them. Some sought refuge in foreign lands, where they could freely share their wisdom with other nations. Others, seeing an opportunity to gain power and wealth, sold their secrets to the highest bidder. Each defection further weakened the once great empire, creating divisions that had never before existed. The empire that had once been a beacon of unity, prosperity, and enlightenment began to unravel from within. The knowledge that had been the very foundation of Tartaria's greatness was now its greatest vulnerability. Once a powerful force for progress, the empire was now torn apart by its own unchecked ambitions and the treachery of those who sought to seize its secrets for themselves. As the cracks deepened, Tartaria's once proud cities began to crumble. Its technological wonders fell into disrepair, and the once glorious empire slipped into the shadow of its former self, on the brink of collapse. In the end, it wasn't just the external threats or the betrayal of foreign powers that led to Tartaria's downfall. It was the empire's own failure to heed the warnings of the past and the destructive forces unleashed by its own hubris. As the last remnants of its greatness faded into history, the seeds of destruction sown long ago grew into the tragic end of one of the most advanced civilizations the world had ever known, the Great Calamity. The fall of Tartaria was not merely the result of political strife, internal decay, or external sabotage. It was marked by a cataclysmic event, a great calamity that shook the very foundations of the empire. It began with a celestial occurrence that could not be ignored, a phenomenon that altered the course of history and set into motion the empire's unraveling. One fateful night, the heavens themselves seemed to crack open. The once brilliant stars that had guided Tartarian explorers for millennia were suddenly obscured by an unnatural darkness. A strange, swirling mass appeared in the sky. Some described it as a colossal, shifting nebula, others as an ominous celestial eye. It loomed above the empire for days, casting an eerie pall over the land and filling the people with dread. The sun itself seemed to dim, as if nature itself was being twisted by some malevolent force. Aeliana watched in horror as the stars seemed to bleed, their light dimming as if the universe itself mourned. The event triggered a chain of disasters. A plague swept through the empire. Crops failed, and the people turned on one another in desperation. Kael, who had been preparing for another expedition, stayed by Aeliana's side, his adventurous spirit tempered by the need to protect her. In the days that followed, rumors spread that the event was a punishment from the gods, a divine judgment for the empire's arrogance and overreach. The ruling class, so consumed by their own self-importance, had violated sacred boundaries, and now the heavens were seeking retribution. Many believed that the empire's experiments with forbidden knowledge, tampering with cosmic forces, delving into the esoteric, and seeking power beyond mortal comprehension, had drawn the wrath of the universe itself. A select few, however, whispered that the event was not a divine act, but the result of the Tartarians' own reckless pursuit of power. They had ventured too far into the unknown, and in doing so, they had unleashed a force that could not be contained. Aeliana discovered that the calamity was no accident. The forbidden experiments had unleashed a cosmic imbalance, and the Order's secrets now threatened to destroy everything. "We have to stop this," she told Kael, her voice trembling. "But it may cost us everything." Kael took her hand, his eyes filled with resolve. "Then we'll face it together." Soon after the celestial event, disaster struck. A terrible plague, unlike anything the world had seen, swept through the empire. Its arrival was swift and merciless, with no regard for status or station. The pestilence spread like wildfire, creeping into every corner of Tartaria. Physicians and healers, once able to cure almost any affliction with their advanced knowledge, were powerless to stop it. The plague defied all of Tartaria's greatest medical remedies, its origins and nature impossible to understand. Whole villages were wiped out in a matter of days, and the once thriving cities became ghost towns, their streets echoing with the sounds of misery and despair. No one was safe. Emperors, generals, and peasants alike fell prey to the disease. Panic gripped the empires; even the most powerful were not spared from its wrath. As if the plague weren't enough, the empire was soon struck by famine. Crops that had once flourished in the fertile lands of Tartaria began to wither and die. Fields of grain and orchards that had sustained the population for centuries turned barren overnight. The rivers, once abundant with fish and fresh water, dried up or became poisoned, leaving the people starving and desperate. The agricultural disaster was not just the result of a single season's poor harvest. It was a systemic failure. The empire's food supply chain, built upon generations of agricultural knowledge, was now in ruins. Cities that had once been centers of trade and prosperity were now besieged by hunger, and the poor suffered the most. The collapse of the empire's agricultural systems had far-reaching consequences. Social order, once a cornerstone of Tartaria's strength, began to disintegrate. The aristocracy, accustomed to their lavish lifestyles, could no longer maintain their power or resources. The once strong central government began to fragment as local warlords and tribal leaders took advantage of the chaos, claiming territories for themselves. Famine, disease, and lawlessness ravaged the land, and the people turned on each other in their desperation. The social contract that had held Tartaria together, the belief in shared progress, mutual respect, and unity, was shattered, and the once great empire began to collapse into anarchy. In the wake of the calamity, the ruling class, desperate to salvage any semblance of order, resorted to extreme measures. Kings and emperors began ordering mass sacrifices in an attempt to appease the gods and restore the empire's fortunes. In the temples and sacred sites, priests conducted rituals of unimaginable scale, offering the lives of thousands in hopes that the gods would lift the curse. It was a final, tragic attempt to restore what had been lost, but it only fueled the chaos. The people, disillusioned and angry, began to see these sacrifices not as acts of piety, but as a sign of the ruler's failure to protect them. The belief in the divine, once a unifying force in Tartaria, now became a source of division and distrust. Into this void stepped the false prophets. These self-proclaimed visionaries, sensing the desperation of the people, rose up and promised salvation. They claimed to possess secret knowledge or divine insight that could cure the plague and end the suffering. Many of them spoke of mystical forces, hidden powers, or ancient prophecies, and their followers grew in numbers. Cults began to spread throughout the empire, offering false hope and fractured ideologies. These movements, while varied, all had one thing in common. They further fragmented the already crumbling empire. Each cult or prophet gained a following, but none could heal the wounds of Tartaria. In fact, they often made things worse, as rival factions fought for control over resources and the hearts of the people. What was once a united and powerful empire, guided by the pursuit of knowledge, harmony, and progress, was now reduced to a shadow of its former self. The celestial event, the plague, the famine, the political chaos, and the rise of false prophets all worked together to bring about the disintegration of Tartaria. No longer was it a beacon of enlightenment, but a broken land filled with suffering, superstition, and division. As the empire teetered on the brink of collapse, it became clear that the Great Calamity was not just a series of natural disasters or cosmic occurrences. It was the inevitable result of an empire that had pushed too far, reached too high, and ignored the warning signs of its own downfall. The end of Tartaria was not just the fall of a civilization. It was a tragic reminder of the fragility of power and the cost of arrogance. External threats emerge. As Tartaria's internal decay reached a tipping point, external threats emerged with a fury, capitalizing on the empire's vulnerability. Once a seemingly invincible force, Tartaria was now a fractured, weakened shell, ripe for exploitation by its rivals. Neighboring kingdoms, who had long eyed the empire's vast wealth and unmatched technological prowess, saw this as the perfect moment to strike. These kingdoms, once cautious and even intimidated by Tartaria's strength, now moved with growing unity and determination, forming alliances to tear down the empire once and for all. The political infighting and corruption within Tartaria had not gone unnoticed. Its weakness was the very signal that neighboring powers had been waiting for. Behind the scenes, regional governors, seeking to preserve their own power or escape the crumbling empire, began to secretly collaborate with external forces. They provided vital intelligence, facilitated smuggling routes, and even opened the gates of their cities to enemy agents in exchange for promises of autonomy and protection. This treasonous collaboration further weakened the integrity of Tartaria's defense. Adding to the betrayal were Tartarian defectors, scholars, engineers, generals, who had once been loyal to the empire, but now saw its collapse as inevitable. Driven by fear, disillusionment, or the lure of power, these defectors shared Tartaria's most closely guarded technological secrets with their new allies, giving enemy forces unprecedented power. The empire's most advanced innovations, from energy manipulation to metallurgical breakthroughs, once jealously guarded, now found their way into foreign hands. Black market deals ensured that Tartaria's enemies gained access to its own arcane machinery and engineering marvels. These stolen secrets fueled the rise of formidable adversaries who quickly developed weapons and strategies capable of rivaling Tartaria's own. The empire's greatest achievements, which had once secured its dominance, now hastened its downfall. Meanwhile, nomadic tribes from the steppes, once neutral or loosely aligned with the empire, seized the moment to launch devastating raids on Tartaria's borders. These once prosperous lands, where traders and farmers thrived, turned into war zones as relentless attacks pillaged villages, disrupted supply routes, and left destruction in their wake. The empire's military, already stretched thin from internal strife and growing external threats, struggled to mount an effective defense. Maritime powers, sensing the collapse of Tartaria's once secure trade networks, imposed blockades on Tartarian ports. These seafaring nations, eager to choke off the flow of goods and resources, crippled the empire's economy. Bustling coastal cities fell silent as merchant fleets, once symbols of Tartaria's global influence, were seized or destroyed. The resulting economic collapse further isolated Tartaria, accelerating its decline. As Tartaria weakened, rival kingdoms and nomadic tribes continued their relentless advance. Kael, a seasoned explorer with deep knowledge of the empire's terrain, found himself a target for defectors and spies. One night, a former comrade, Arias, approached him with an offer: join the enemy and secure a future for himself and Aeliana. The empire is doomed, Arias said. Save yourselves. Kael refused, but the encounter left him shaken. Aeliana, meanwhile, uncovered evidence that the Order's secrets were being sold to foreign powers. The very knowledge she had sworn to protect was now a weapon in the hands of Tartaria's enemies. We can't let them have it, she said, her voice fierce. If Tartaria falls, its legacy must not be lost. With Tartaria's enemies closing in from all sides, Kael and Aeliana realized that they were running out of time. The empire, once a beacon of knowledge and power, was on the brink of annihilation. Their only choice was to act before everything was lost forever. Internal strife. As the empire of Tartaria staggered under the weight of external threats, internal strife became the most destructive force within its borders. Once a unified civilization driven by progress, unity, and enlightenment, Tartaria had now fractured into warring factions, each vying for control over its crumbling remains. The celestial disaster, plague, and famine had left the central government in disarray, its authority eroded beyond repair. The elite, once the architects of the empire's success, now fought bitterly among themselves for power, plunging the realm into chaos. Amid this turmoil, Aeliana and Kael found themselves caught in the crossfire of civil war. Factions led by warlords, disillusioned generals, and ambitious aristocrats carved out their own territories, each claiming to hold the true vision for Tartaria's future. Some sought to restore the empire to its former glory, while others embraced total fragmentation, believing that independence from the corrupt central government was the only path forward. The common people, long ignored by their rulers, rose up in defiance, their suffering pushing them to rebel against both the old order and the new opportunists seeking to claim power. Aeliana's loyalty to the order was shattered when she uncovered the truth. Grand Master Orin, once a revered leader, had been complicit in the experiments that led to the empire's downfall. He betrayed us all, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. The secrets she had sworn to protect had become instruments of destruction, their knowledge now wielded by those who sought dominion rather than wisdom. Kael held her close, his voice steady, despite the uncertainty around them. We'll find a way to make this right. Together. As whispers of a secret heir to the throne spread, hope flickered among the remnants of loyalist factions. Some believed that a descendant of the royal line had survived the chaos, hidden away until the time was right to reclaim the throne. This belief became the rallying cry for those who still clung to the dream of a united Tartaria. Yet their efforts were constantly undermined by betrayal, infighting, and the relentless advance of external invaders. The nobility, once the foundation of the empire, had fallen into petty rivalries, While the military was fragmented, its forces divided by competing loyalties. The people, desperate for stability, placed their hopes in myths and fading dreams of restoration. Meanwhile, the knowledge of the order, once a closely guarded treasure, had fallen into the wrong hands, turned into a weapon against the very civilization it had once uplifted. Aeliana and Kael knew that the fate of Tartaria was slipping further from their grasp with each passing day. They had no army, no kingdom, and no certainty of victory, but they had each other and the unshakable resolve to fight for the truth. Whether the empire could be saved or whether they would be among its last survivors remained uncertain, but one thing was clear. They would not stand idly by as Tartaria burned. The final siege. As the final days of Tartaria's once glorious empire drew near, its capital, once a shining beacon of civilization, faced its most dire moment. The siege that would mark the end of an era began with the arrival of a vast coalition army, an alliance of Tartaria's enemies united by a single purpose: the complete destruction of the empire. This coalition, composed of rival kingdoms, defectors, and mercenaries, had been building strength for years, waiting for the right moment to strike. With Tartaria weakened from within, they knew this would be their only chance to conquer the empire, seize its land, wealth, and powerful technologies. Despite Tartaria's advanced military technology and centuries of scientific breakthroughs, the empire's forces were stretched thin, exhausted by internal strife and ongoing external threats. The once mighty Tartarian army, known for its discipline and strength, had been reduced to a shadow of its former self. Many of their best soldiers had been lost in previous conflicts or had defected to the enemy, leaving only the remnants of a once feared fighting force. The city's walls, which had withstood countless sieges in the past, now seemed fragile against the overwhelming assault. The capital's fortifications, once impenetrable, had decayed from years of neglect, corruption, and infighting. As the siege wore on, Tartaria's leadership, desperate to stave off defeat, turned to a secret weapon. For years, the empire's greatest minds, scholars, engineers, and mystics, had been working on an ancient and highly advanced technology, a superweapon of unimaginable power. Some believed it was a relic from Tartaria's earliest days, possibly a gift from the gods or an artifact of cosmic significance, while others thought it was the culmination of centuries of research into energy manipulation. In a final, desperate move, the leadership ordered the weapon's deployment. The skies above the capital crackled with unnatural energy as the superweapon activated, sending shockwaves that tore through the enemy lines. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the tide of battle might turn, as the weapon wreaked havoc among the coalition forces, scattering them in disarray. But the weapon's full potential had been long misunderstood, and its usage brought unintended consequences. Instead of restoring the balance, the weapon destabilized the surrounding infrastructure, inflicting massive collateral damage on the capital itself. The devastation caused only deepened the city's sense of helplessness, and the enemy regrouped, realizing that the Tartarians had exhausted their last resort. Amid the chaos, a betrayal rocked the empire at its most vulnerable moment. A key figure within Tartaria's leadership, whether through fear, greed, or promises of power, turned against the empire. This traitor, once a trusted advisor or military leader, opened the city's gates, allowing the enemy forces to flood in. The capital, once impregnable, was quickly overrun. The betrayal sent shockwaves through the remaining defenders as the once proud city began to fall. In the midst of the capital's destruction, as the last of the defenders were overwhelmed, Aeliana and Kael worked tirelessly to protect the empire's most vital secrets. Knowing the empire was on the brink of collapse, they made a desperate choice to safeguard the remnants of Tartaria's legacy. Aeliana, driven by her fierce loyalty, activated the ancient superweapon, a cosmic-powered device that had been the hope of the empire. But the weapon was unstable, and its activation came at a terrible cost. With the enemy breaching the city walls, Kael made a heart-wrenching decision. "Take this," he said, handing Aeliana a small, intricately carved box containing the empire's most sacred knowledge. "Go. I'll hold them off. No! Aeliana cried, clutching his arm. I won't leave you. Kael kissed her fiercely, his voice breaking. You have to. For Tartaria. For us. With tears in her eyes, Aeliana fled, knowing that her only chance of survival and preserving the Empire's knowledge lay in escaping the city. Kael made his last stand, buying her precious time with his life. As she ran, the superweapon detonated, engulfing the capital in a blinding light. When the dust finally settled, the city lay in ruins, and Kael was gone. The once great capital was reduced to rubble, but Aeliana carried with her the last hope for Tartaria's future. She fled with the sacred knowledge, determined to protect it at all costs. Though the Empire was lost, the relic she carried held the key to Tartaria's greatest secrets, its advanced technology, knowledge of the cosmos, and the wisdom of its scholars. It would one day be discovered, perhaps by a new generation or a new empire, to restore what had been lost and build upon what remained. The final siege marked the end of an era for Tartaria, but the legacy of its knowledge carried by Aeliana would not be lost to history. What remained could still inspire hope, perhaps even lead to the rebirth of a civilization that would unlock the ancient secrets of the Empire once thought to be lost forever. The fall and aftermath. The fall of Tartaria marked the end of an era, a cataclysmic shift that reverberated through the world for centuries to come. Once an empire of unparalleled advancements, culture, and wisdom, the once mighty cities of Tartaria now lay in smoldering ruins, their majestic spires, intricate mosaics, and sprawling gardens reduced to rubble. What had been a beacon of hope and progress was now a ghost of its former self, its memory nearly obliterated by the forces that had brought it down. The conquerors, intent on ensuring that Tartaria never rose again, left nothing untouched in their crusade to erase its legacy. They destroyed the capital and obliterated its monuments, systematically eradicating the physical traces of the empire's glory. Statues, temples, libraries, and artifacts that had once stood as symbols of the empire's greatness were melted down, buried, or simply erased from history. But the destruction was not limited to the physical world. The conquerors understood that the true power of Tartaria lay not only in its cities and technologies, but in its vast and intricate knowledge base. To secure their victory and prevent any future attempts to rebuild Tartaria, they set about wiping clean the very history of the empire. Libraries were burned, archives were ransacked, and scholars who had once served as the stewards of Tartarian knowledge were either killed or forced into hiding. The once proud record of Tartaria's scientific achievements, philosophical wisdom, and technological marvels was either destroyed or concealed. In the wake of the fall, only fragmented myths and legends remained, twisted over time, passed down through generations as little more than the stories of a forgotten empire. The conquerors, fearful of the immense power that the remnants of Tartarian knowledge could bring, took further measures to ensure that no civilization would rise to challenge their control. Realizing that the advanced technologies of Tartaria could eventually be rediscovered, they began to withhold its secrets, carefully controlling the flow of knowledge into the world. Over the course of centuries, they began to release small pieces of Tartarian technology and wisdom, each carefully crafted and packaged as a discovery attributed to smaller, less influential civilizations, cultures that, in comparison, seemed incapable of wielding the true power of what had been learned. These pieces were released incrementally, one discovery at a time, each carefully calibrated to prevent any one civilization from gaining too much power or insight into the full extent of Tartaria's achievements. The releases were never accidental. They were timed with precision, strategically distributed to ensure that no civilization could amass enough knowledge or strength to threaten the conqueror's hold on the world. Over time, these discoveries became part of a false narrative, a story that suggested that humanity's greatest achievements were the results of disparate, isolated cultures, each stumbling upon isolated breakthroughs without any underlying connection to a unified advanced civilization. The conquerors wanted to ensure that no one would piece together the truth, that no one would uncover the fact that it was Tartaria's greatness that had once shaped the course of history. Behind the scenes, a shadowy global council emerged, composed of the descendants of those who had defeated Tartaria. This council, operating in secrecy, watched over the world with an iron grip, ensuring that Tartarian knowledge never came together again. They controlled the flow of information, curating each new discovery, hiding its origins, and manipulating the course of technological advancement to ensure that no civilization ever grew powerful enough to challenge their rule. The members of this council, acting as unseen puppet masters, kept the world in check, ensuring that knowledge remained fragmented and that any attempts to reunite the pieces of Tartaria's lost empire were suppressed. As the centuries passed, the world moved forward, but the memory of Tartaria faded further into the shadows of history. What remained were only whispers, rumors of an ancient empire whose knowledge had been lost, whose cities had been destroyed, and whose technology had been buried. And yet, despite the conqueror's best efforts to bury the past, the truth began to resurface. Small pockets of knowledge, preserved in secret texts or rediscovered in forgotten ruins, began to hint at the true power of the lost civilization. Scholars, adventurers, and historians who dared to question the accepted narrative uncovered clues that led them to the realization that Tartaria had been far more advanced than any other civilization in history. They began to connect the dots, piecing together the fragments of the past and questioning why the knowledge of such a great empire had been hidden away. These revelations sparked a growing sense of unease, both among those who sought to uncover the truth and those who controlled the narrative. A rebellion, born out of curiosity and defiance, began to form. Whispers of a growing resistance spread through the underground circles of scholars, engineers, and revolutionaries who had come to realize that the conqueror's monopoly on knowledge had kept humanity from reaching its true potential. These rebels, some driven by a thirst for truth, others by desire for power, began to question the hidden history of Tartaria and the purpose behind the deliberate suppression of its knowledge. The rebellion was still in its infancy, and its leaders were scattered and disorganized, but the seeds of resistance had been sown. Those who had uncovered the truth about Tartaria's fall and the deliberate erasure of its history began to ask themselves why such powerful knowledge had been kept from the world. What were the conquerors afraid of? What potential did Tartaria hold that they feared so deeply? And most importantly, what would happen if the hidden knowledge of Tartaria was ever allowed to resurface? Aeliana survived, carrying the weight of Kael's sacrifice and the secrets of Tartaria. She wandered the earth, a shadow of her former self, searching for a place to hide the knowledge she protected. Along the way, she encountered other survivors, some who sought to rebuild, others who sought to exploit. But Aeliana remained steadfast, her love for Kael and her duty to Tartaria guiding her every step. The conquerors rewrote history, erasing Tartaria's legacy. But Aeliana knew the truth. She formed a secret society, dedicated to preserving the Empire's knowledge and honoring Kael's memory. One day, she whispered to the stars, the world will remember, and we will rise again. Here's the revised version with your addition, Legends and Legacy. In the aftermath of Tartaria's collapse, the survivors, once the proud citizens of a lost empire, scattered across the globe, hiding in plain sight. Many sought refuge in remote corners of the world, blending in with the local populations, living quiet lives to avoid detection by the forces that had decimated their civilization. But even as they hid, their commitment to preserving the knowledge and legacy of Tartaria remained steadfast. These survivors formed secret societies, hidden networks of scholars, engineers, mystics, and visionaries, dedicated to safeguarding the advanced wisdom of their fallen empire. The members of these societies kept the flame of Tartaria alive, passing down the ancient knowledge through cryptic texts, esoteric teachings, and clandestine gatherings. These groups operated in the shadows, subtly influencing the development of modern civilizations, guiding the course of history without ever being noticed. Their goal was clear: to ensure that the greatness of Tartaria would not be forgotten, and to protect its secrets until the time was right to reveal them once more. As centuries passed, the world began to experience sudden and unexplained leaps in technology, knowledge, and cultural achievement. Advancements in medicine, architecture, energy production, and engineering seemed to emerge out of nowhere, defying conventional understanding. Strange artifacts and mysterious relics began to surface in the most remote regions of the earth, buried ruins deep within jungles, hidden temples in forgotten mountains, and underwater cities that had long been lost to history. These discoveries, often attributed to lesser-known civilizations, were in reality remnants of Tartaria's unparalleled achievements. But because their origins were obscured, the true source of these innovations remained a mystery. Some believed these breakthroughs were the result of chance, while others attributed them to visionary minds working ahead of their time. But those who were part of the secret societies knew better. They understood that these were the hidden fingerprints of their ancestors, Tartarian technologies that had survived the fall, waiting to be uncovered. As each new discovery came to light, the world experienced a sense of wonder and hope, a belief that humanity was on the brink of achieving something extraordinary. Yet beneath the surface, there was always the lingering truth. These advancements were tied to an empire whose power, wisdom, and influence had been deliberately hidden and erased. The true origins of these innovations were masked, and the world's understanding of its own history remained incomplete. As the years went by, a new generation of explorers, historians, and mavericks began to piece together the puzzle of Tartaria's lost empire. Some traveled to distant lands, following ancient prophecies and cryptic texts that had been passed down by the surviving Tartarians. These brave individuals scoured forgotten libraries, deciphered obscure manuscripts, and followed whispered legends to uncover remnants of Tartaria's once great civilization. They discovered fragments of advanced technologies, blueprints for energy systems far beyond anything seen in the modern world, devices that could harness the power of nature itself, and healing techniques that seemed to defy the known laws of biology. Others studied the mythologies and oral traditions of indigenous cultures, searching for clues about Tartaria's true legacy. Ancient stories told by native tribes spoke of a time long ago when a great empire ruled the world with knowledge and wisdom, its people mastering the elements and living in harmony with the earth. These stories were dismissed as mere folklore by many, but to those who sought the truth, they held the key to understanding the true nature of the lost empire. The symbols, rituals, and teachings of these ancient cultures often mirrored those of Tartaria, providing a thread of continuity between the old world and the new. In their quest for knowledge, these explorers and scholars discovered that Tartaria's influence was not confined to the physical world. The empire had left behind an intellectual and philosophical legacy that had subtly shaped the development of human thought and culture. The ideals of Tartaria, harmony, enlightenment, and the pursuit of truth, echoed in the works of great thinkers throughout history, from ancient philosophers to modern scientists. The empire's influence could be seen in the development of sacred geometry, the exploration of quantum physics, and the study of consciousness. Though Tartaria's name had been erased from history, its ideas had seeped into the very fabric of human civilization, leaving a lasting impact that could not be ignored. As more and more pieces of the puzzle were uncovered, a growing movement began to form, a new generation determined to reunite the lost knowledge of Tartaria. These individuals, driven by a deep sense of purpose and a desire to restore the ancient empire's greatness, sought to revive the civilization's principles and technologies. They were determined to rebuild what had been lost, to reawaken the potential of humanity that had once been realized under Tartaria's rule. The movement was still in its early stages, and many of its leaders operated in secrecy, knowing that their efforts would be met with resistance from those who sought to maintain the status quo. Yet the idea of Tartaria's resurrection, of bringing back an empire of unparalleled enlightenment and achievement, continued to inspire those who believed in the power of knowledge, truth, and progress. Centuries later, the legend of Tartaria endured in whispers and myths. Explorers and historians sought the lost relics of the empire, unaware of the love story that lay at its heart. Aeliana's descendants, carrying her bloodline and the secrets she protected, worked in the shadows to ensure that Tartaria's legacy would one day be restored. In a remote valley where a single, delicate flower bloomed, a young historian named Aaron uncovered a hidden chamber. Inside, she found the carved box Aeliana had protected, along with a letter addressed to the future. To whoever finds this, it read, know that love was the heart of Tartaria, and love will be its rebirth. As Aaron held the box, she felt a connection to the past, a bond forged by love and sacrifice. And in that moment, she vowed to continue the story that Aeliana and Kael had begun, ensuring that their legacy would never be forgotten. The story of Tartaria, though shrouded in mystery, continued to haunt and inspire those who sought to uncover its secrets. It was a story of ambition, of greatness, and of tragedy, of a civilization that rose to the pinnacle of human achievement, only to fall prey to its own flaws and the passage of time. But its legacy endured, not as a mere relic of the past, but as a beacon for the future. Tartaria's rise and fall served as a powerful reminder that even the greatest empires are not immune to the forces of time and fate. Yet the seeds of its knowledge and wisdom had not been entirely extinguished, and they waited, buried beneath the layers of history, for the right moment to be rediscovered. The world was on the brink of a new awakening, and as the mysteries of Tartaria were unraveled, its true legacy, the knowledge, the technologies, and the vision of a better world, would once again inspire humanity to reach for the stars.